You know what CNN did this morning? CNN. I was watching the news, and I'm seeing that they're reporting now the bus bombing, and somebody's like, "This is really going to be bad for the peace process." And one of the anchors actually butted in and said, but we can't look at this just as an isolated incident. We can't look at this just as today. Atrocities have been happening on both sides for a very long time. And so you can't just look at this one incident and try to figure out what to do based on this one incident. Are you kidding me?
What atrocity has Israel committed? They say that all the time. Are you talking about retaliating for rocket attacks? 8,000 of them?
They're a country.
Is that what you're talking about?
They're a country.
They have to do something.
Well, they talk about stuff like the one family who lost all 9 of its members in a retaliation bombing the other day. And they, why does this stuff happen? Well, I mean, Hamas puts their rockets in the middle of schoolyards, and then it's
Israel's fault.
And then it's Israel's fault. I mean, is that an atrocity? It's a tragedy. I mean, Israel's not trying to kill families of 9.
No, it is not an atrocity that Israel conducted. It isn't. I mean, they're trying to retaliate. Yeah. And they're trying to retaliate.
People die in war. When you fire 8,000 rockets at someone, some of your people are going to die.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately, that's what happens. You should try not firing doing it.
They're intentionally doing it near schools and mosques and everything else.
Yes, they're using human shields. And Israel's not playing that game. So you can't turn around then and blame Israel for that.
You certainly can't call it an atrocity. I mean, I think Israel does a pretty good job at trying to make sure those things don't happen. They're not trying to kill innocent people, but they also have to protect their own innocent people.
Yeah, you look at the job Hamas is doing, trying to protect innocent people. Not at all. They're just lobbing rockets one after another into Israel.
Well, that's only because they don't have the soup. They don't have the money. They don't have the economic ability. They don't.
So
have
it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine that they kill whoever they kill.
And not only are they
matter.
indiscriminately targeting civilians in Israel, they're intentionally putting their own civilians in danger by putting these rockets nearby to these areas. This is the spin
now on this bus thing. The man was mentally disturbed. No kidding. But can you follow that up with one other question? How does a mentally disturbed man make a suicide vest? Where'd he get that?
Random luck with wires.
Yeah, random luck with wires. These people. You guys read The Garden of Beasts. Do you remember the scene where the people are marching down the streets, the brown shirts, and they just start grabbing people and beating them if they don't give the Hitler salute? That's what Hamas is. That's exactly what Hamas is. And how we are actually, you heard it yesterday. Who was it that was saying that, the United States should go to the bargaining table with Hamas?
That was an MSNBC reporter. Ayman Moyeldin.
Yeah, and they're obviously a designated terrorist group, but you bring up in the Garden of Beasts talking about the Nazi era, and in that time, our media was doing the same thing with the Nazis.
Yeah.
They were saying we should negotiate with them, that they have answers, that they're not as bad as people are saying.
Yeah,
they were
none
justifying their actions.
None of this stuff with the Jews is happening, and then it turned into, and if it is happening, it's not as bad as what people are saying it is, and the Jews brought it on themselves. I believe that was Eleanor Roosevelt that said the Jews have caused a lot of this trouble and brought it on themselves.
Yeah, and this is
same people.
This is from MSNBC yesterday, blaming us for not sitting down with a terrorist group.
Well, the United States can definitely play a pivotal role. I don't think that people in this part of the world feel that it has played the role it should be playing. And that really comes down to 2 very important factors. One, the United States does not have any direct contact with the Palestinian factions, which it and Israel and others label as terrorist organizations. Despite the fact that Hamas did win democratic elections here, despite the fact that it is a part of the fabric of Palestinian politics that simply cannot be ignored or isolated or marginalized. They have instead focused on the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. That hasn't necessarily produced tangible results. So there's a lot of problems in terms of getting everyone on the same table. Not everyone sits on the same table.
Everybody shouldn't sit at the same table. Not everybody. Look, everybody sitting at the same table at Thanksgiving? No, there's a kiddies table. Okay, there's a kids table. You're going to go, Hamas, you go sit at the kids table. You don't belong with the adults. You're putting your fingers up your nose and blowing your friends up. You don't belong at the big people's table. Sorry. We don't. What are you talking about?
He goes on to say that America should sit down with Hamas to rein in Israel.
To rein in Israel?
Yeah.
You know what this? What else is this is doing? This is allowing the Muslim Brotherhood to look like peace brokers. They're coming in. They're arming. I'm telling you, when Congress gets back in session, we have got to get on the phone and get the House to say, cut the funding off for Egypt. Cut the funding off for Egypt. Do you know we could rebuild Detroit? With the money that we spend to Egypt, we could rebuild Detroit. What are we doing?
And how many hundreds of millions of dollars are we funneling to the Palestinian Authority? A ton. We've given them a ton of money, which they then use. They funnel to terrorist organizations. It's unconscionable what's happening.
It should all be cut off.
Yep.
It should all be cut off. Back in just a second.